Hello friends, welcome back to our channel. Today I am going to explain the fourth episode of Lady in the Lake. If you have not seen the first episode yet, I am giving a link to it in the description. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like our video. Now we come to the fourth episode of this series called Innocence Leaves When You Discover Cruelty. First in others, then in yourself. The episode begins at the psychiatric hospital where Maddie comes to visit Stephen. She tells him her name and Stefan tells her you're Maddie Schwartz. But in the letter you just said your name was Maddie. Maybe you think that all Polish people are Nazis, but I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. He tells Maddie about his father, who was a madman during the war. They just wanted to save people's lives. I follow the same rules. To this, Maddie says, "So what do you think about the lives of little girls?" Saying this, Maddie takes out a small tape recorder and puts it on the table, which Stephen asks her to put back. He says that he thought there was a connection between the two of them, so you came to talk. He doesn't want anyone to listen to him. Maddie lies to her, saying that this will make other people think that she is interviewing him, so she is doing this. Now Maddie takes out a notebook and records Stephen's statement. Maddie tells him, "Why did you kill Tessie? Why did they throw his body in the lake? And who was the black man there that day?" He says he didn't throw her in the lake, but how do you know her body will be found there? How do you know that place? Maddie says that she had reached there from right guess. Stephen says, "No, you're lying. Girls used to go there with their friends. I also used to go there and watch them secretly. If you do not obey the Sabbath, even being a virgin cannot save you." Maddie says that Tessie used to follow Sabbath, so why kill her? To which he says he didn't kill Tessie. He asks who killed him. Stephen says that the experiments. He was also a virgin when he was made ill. Now Stephen's past is shown, in which Stephen and some Nazi people were being experimented by the government. Such was his state of mind. The scene shifts to Cleo, whom Reggie calls and tells the number to come to the bet, and that he should run away by Christmas morning. Cleo asks her son to see that number in the dream book. When Reggie tells Cleo, Dora is packing her things, and he listens to them. Now Reggie cuts off Cleo's call and throws Dora's clothes out of the suitcase and says, "You're sick. You're not going anywhere." Now Cleo and her son go to a woman's house. Her name is Mrs. Tatum, and she works in a salon. Cleo tells Mrs. Tatum that my son was telling her that you have a dream that you want to open a salon of your own. On this, she says that what happens by seeing dreams if they cannot be fulfilled? Cleo tells him that she has a way that can benefit both of us. She gives him $50 and tells him to put it at 366 tomorrow. And if someone asks, he says that he had a dream of a black lady last night. Mrs. Tatum asks what is her benefit and how. Cleo says that she will give him 20% of it. But one thing to understand is that we are three rats on the same boat. If even one drowns, everyone will drown. On this, Mrs. Tatum says that for $6,000, she will remain silent like a rat in a church full of cats. The scene shifts. Maddie is reading her article published in the newspaper. Happy with this, Maddie takes the pie and goes to the office. She wants to meet Charlie there, but Bob stops her in the middle, and I've already talked to Charlie about you. And from this afternoon you are working officially for the Star, provided you do not go to work elsewhere. Maddie says that she has to work in the same newsroom, to which Bob says with a little fake laugh that you will now have a separate desk. Now you will work on the helpline desk with Don Heath. He gives her 2 tickets to a Christmas show to celebrate. It is now displayed. Maddie now accompanies Heath to see the letters from the helpline. The scene shifts to Officer Platt and his partner arriving at Duke's location with their informant. The Duke comes there to deal with the pigeons. That's when Platt voices the Duke. On seeing the police, the duo started running. They begin to follow him. The Duke goes ahead and enters a theater, and the 2 policemen also come looking for him. Platt sees him and points the gun at him. The Duke shoots at Platt's partner and Platt shoots at the Duke. As a result, both of them died. The scene shifts. In Gordon's office, where it is being shown on TV that the Duke of the 3 people who attacked Myrtle Summer has died, and a policeman has also died. 3 men and a 34-year-old woman were also involved in the attack, one of whom and the woman are still at large. Gordon's heart leaps when he hears this. He sets his men to capture the man. The scene shifts to Gordon's nightclub, where Gordon has tied one of the killer's accomplices to a chair. He calls Reggie and says, "One of my men told me that you paid for Cleo to be there." To this, Reggie says that yes, but at that time I was being watched by the police because I was in the fish store that morning when the white girl was murdered. Gordon says that, and you sent it to Cleo without asking me. If the police have identified those two clowns, they will also find Cleo. Now you have to be present on the Cleo Christmas giveaway at anything you do and finish it before dawn or I'll kill you. After saying this, Gordon leaves from there, and Reggie goes towards the man tied to the chair. He sees that Gordon has killed him by injecting him with a drug, which is the same drug that Gordon gives to Dora. The scene shifts to Dora, who is looking for drugs in her room. Her stomach is aching and she is crying. That's where Cleo comes in. She tells Cleo that she knows her planning. Reggie has told her everything. He too wants to leave. She wants them to go somewhere far away and start singing on stage together. The scene shifts to Officer Platt, who sneaks into Maddie's house. Both of them tell their stories and dance after drinking beer, and then they get intimate. Here we are shown Maddie's past, where she is with Ellen Drust on the same side of the lake. They are both wrapped up, but Maddie tells her to do it from the top. Now, after everything is done, Officer Platt comes out of Maddie's window and comes down the stairs. Then Officer John sees him. The scene shifts to Cleo, whom Reggie calls and says that the plan is changed. Now I also need money to disappear. To which Cleo asks how many and how many. Reggie calls Cleo to a park in the middle of the night. Now it's time for Christmas Eve. Reggie arrives at the horse court with a suitcase. He goes straight to the betting room. Now the number wheels come to a stop at 366. Now Mrs. Tatum is called and told that she has won. At that time she is straightening Maddie's hair. Now there is an atmosphere of celebration, and Mrs. Tatum's family is photographed with Gordon. Gordon is photographed with Cleo's family and Reggie. Now Cleo comes home and wears her scarf around her mother's neck, but her mother is not particularly happy. Cleo says it's all because of Gordon, isn't it? When Papa was gone, you stayed in bed for months. I used to bring food for you and sing songs, but you never paid attention to me. And don't tell me it wasn't my fault. Her mother says that it was nobody's fault. Maybe it was God's will. Just then, Slappy and his children arrive. He's a make-a-cheese creep for Cleo's father, and they all enjoy Christmas Eve together. On the other hand, Stephen is looking at Maddie's address. Now the guards come and take him away with all the other madmen. On getting a chance, he sets a guard on fire with a lighter, which causes a stampede there, and on getting a chance, Stefan runs away from there. The scene shifts to Maddie and her mother and on to Sheth. They are at Ellen Drust's house party, where Alain comes to say 2 words with his son and his wife. He and Maddie look at each other, showing a flashback of the same lake. Young Ellen tells Maddie that she will never see her face again. In the purgatory, they all love God. After this, some women come and start praising Maddie's article. And then Alain comes along. He says that Maddie always wanted to see her name in the newspaper, no matter what she had to do for it. Even if I have to sympathize with the murderer of my dead daughter. Maddie Ellen says Ellen, angered by this, starts shouting at her and says, "Never again take my or any member of my family's name with your dirty tongue. If you have the slightest bit of shame left in you, leave my house." Maddie says, "I'm sorry, but I'm not going anywhere. I also consider Tessie to be my child. I will find out his whereabouts." Ellen says that everyone knows the truth here, but you are using my daughter's dead body to fulfill your dreams. And he goes on to say this. That's when Seth says, "I sympathize with the man." Hearing this, Maddie angrily slaps Seth. Everyone starts to look at them, but Seth walks away a little cautiously. The scene shifts to Reggie, who is sitting in the car crying, and he starts the car from there in anger and leaves. Now Cleo is shown walking down the street with her husband. Slappy sees a suitcase in Cleo's hand and asks what's in it, to which she tells me that Dora is leaving the city and I am taking some gifts for her. Now Slappy leaves him, and there's Reggie sitting in the car looking at her. Now Cleo is counting money sitting on a bench in the park, and only then comes the Reggie car there. The scene shifts to Maddie, who has just come home. He thinks someone is in the house. She comes in, calls Platt's name, and turns on the light. Steph is sitting there. He asks Maddie who this Platt is, to which Maddie scares him, saying that he is a police officer and he can come here anytime. Stefan says, "It's good if you live with a black man. I thought you felt a connection with me, so you came, but you just needed a story to publish your story." Maddie was slowly retreating to give him a chance to escape. On seeing this, Stefan shouted at him that he had a crowbar in his hand. He says, "Why are you afraid of me?" "I just took it to open the window, but luckily it was already open." He now stands up and moves forward, seeing which Maddie starts running away. He runs after her, knocks her down, and comes upon her and grabs her. He says, "Don't run. I have forgiven you, Maddie. Do you also forgive me?" Now Stefan calms down and moves away from him and says that he thought that both of them would run away from here somewhere, but perhaps it was his childish idea. Stefan tells Maddie that he is feeling cold, on which Maddie gives him a sweater. He tells her not to tell her mother that he had come to meet her. Perhaps she will not understand. Having said this, he leaves, and Maddie falls to the floor and starts crying. The scene shifts. The police are chasing Stephen in the forest, while the other and Reggie Cleo's bodies are going to be thrown into the lake by boat. At the same time, by diving in the nearby Stephen Lake, ask God for forgiveness of your sins. The police are watching him. Reggie Cleo's body is thrown into a fountain in the middle of the lake. After hearing the police whistle, Reggie's leg slips, and he falls into the boat, breaking one of his legs. This is the same scene that is shown in the first episode. At the end of this episode, the police capture Stephen and take him back. That's the end of this episode. If you like my explanation, please don't forget to share it with your friends. So, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.